Thank you all for coming along today to North Cross Intermediate. Today I'm really very pleased to make two major announcements, and the first announcement is around school property. You may remember just before budget I made a very large announcement, an extra $100 million into new school classrooms to account for growth both in Auckland and in Selwyn and in the Greater Christchurch area, and that was a result of the savings that we had made from driving better value for money from the classrooms that we were building. But today's announcement is part of Budget 2025 and the money that we have put into building school classrooms to account for growth that's happening in the Auckland region. And today I'm very pleased to be able to announce that we are investing $120 million into 137 new role growth classrooms in the Greater Auckland region. Now, this is a major announcement. Here at North Cross Intermediate, they will be receiving 8 classrooms to account for growth, and they'll be very similar to the classrooms you can see around me that I've just been in. Off-site manufactured build, warm, safe, dry, modular classrooms that are really optimal learning environments for our young people. And there will be 137 more of these classrooms built across the Auckland region to account for growth. And all of the principals have been rung last night, and they're all overjoyed at this announcement. Some of them have been waiting a while to have these new classrooms to account for growth. Look, the second part of the announcement, of course, is a major milestone in the school property inquiry that we did, and this is the next iteration of that. And you may well remember that when I came to being the minister, I was quite surprised to find that we had a list of 350 unfunded projects that had schools who had been promised school buildings, they'd been promised upgrades that were never to happen because there wasn't the money available. Now, we launched at that time a school property inquiry to find out how we got to this space, how we got to it costing $1.2 million to build a classroom. And I had Murray McCully and Mark Binns lead that piece of work for me. And a number of the things that they suggested we have already implemented, but they unearthed a whole lot of stories of poor communication, of poor value for money, of using architecturally designed classrooms that cost far more than they should have, meaning that the opportunity cost was we couldn't build classrooms in other areas where they were desperately needed. And you may well remember the story of Marlborough College, the huge project that got massively out of control, ended up costing over $400 million and was not a project that was able to go ahead because of poor communication, poor planning and poor accountability on the ministry's part. From that property inquiry, we've already made a number of changes. We have a functional chief executive. We've already driven the cost of delivering classrooms down from 1.2 million and in the last 2 quarters to 620,000, and that is due to the excellent work of the Ministry of Education. But today we're reaching another milestone, and I'm happy to announce that we will be moving the property department out of the Ministry of Education and into a Crown entity. And that was the suggestion of the report and of McCully and Binns. What we're trying to do is drive better accountability, better value for money, have a professional board and ensure that we deliver property in a slightly different way that allows us more flexibility to make sure that we can build more warm, safe, dry classrooms across the country. I want to acknowledge my ministerial colleague, Chris Bishop, who has been working with me as the Minister of Infrastructure on this project all the way along, and we will jointly be responsible for this new entity, and that's the right thing to do. It is the second biggest property portfolio in New Zealand at $30 billion, and so Chris Bishop and I will work very closely on that. I'd also like to announce that I have appointed a ministerial advisory group that will be directly reporting to me to oversee the transition of school property from the Ministry of Education into this Crown entity, and that group will be chaired by Murray McCully. I'm very lucky to have Mark Binns, who's agreed to come on that board, and we've got some really heavy hitters in Craig Stobo, Rick Hurd and Sarah Pedersen as well, and they will be doing a lot of heavy lifting over the next few months to help us get through to this new entity. But in the meantime, before that's set up, drive even more value for money, more transparency, more accountability, and much better communication between the Ministry of Education and schools. But my message to parents is we are a government that is investing in your children's futures. We are building more classrooms. We built more last year than in 2023. This year we will build more than we did last year. We're getting much better value for money. We've halved the cost of building a classroom in New Zealand, and we will continue to drive that value for money so that we can enjoy more of these beautiful new classrooms right across New Zealand so that we can raise achievement and close the equity gap. And with that, I'm happy to answer all of your questions.
Just on new classrooms, this has obviously been a huge concern for the sector. Does the government feel like it's on track to meeting that demand in high growth areas?
But we're certainly on track to meet that demand. And I, as I mentioned a month ago, was able to announce $100 million worth of new classrooms in the Selwyn district and in Auckland to meet some of that need. And the only way that we were able to do that is because we have driven down the cost of new builds by using off-site manufactured builds, repeatable designs. And look, it wasn't that hard. Just directing the ministry to do something and staying on top of them, and they've done it. And I look back over the last 6 years under the previous government, and yep, we were spending a lot of money on classrooms, but they were costing over $1 million each, and we weren't able to build as many as we could have, and that was a huge wasted opportunity. But I will not make those same mistakes, and we are driving excellent value for money so we can have more of these classrooms right across New Zealand.
Given that you've halved the price it costs to build a classroom, do you expect there to be any quality, having to lower quality just because of the price is halved?
There's no reduction in quality. If you look inside these classrooms, they are warm, dry, safe, functional classrooms. Look, they may not win an architectural award, but that's not what we're trying to achieve here. We're trying to have more of these classrooms across New Zealand, and all of the classrooms I've been in and the teachers I've spoken to, they love these classrooms. You can speak to the teachers here and the principal here. They are functional, they're fit for purpose, the kids love learning in them, and we can build more of these now.
So what do you put the old big price up to then? What's caused that?
Look, I think, if I'm honest with you, a lack of ministerial oversight. I'm a minister and we are a government that is always thinking about taxpayers' money. It's not our money, it's your money. And we need to drive really good value for money to make sure we can have more of these classrooms. And as a minister, I have stayed on top of the ministry from the minute that I found out that we had this colossal problem in the school property portfolio. Look, we're still not perfect, but man, we have driven great value for money. And like I say, down the last 2 quarters, delivering school classrooms for 620,000 is a monumental effort on behalf of the ministry, but it requires great leadership from a government who is focused on delivering better value for money under Christopher Luxon.
Today's announcement obviously focused on Auckland. You mentioned $100 million for Selwyn as well too. Are there any other sort of high growth areas or areas that you're looking at, expanding classrooms and getting additional classrooms through for schools?
Yeah, look, I made an announcement in Wellington the other day. I do want to say that there are 2 separate buckets when we think about school property. The buckets that I'm announcing are the role growth classrooms, and we've done quite a lot of that. The second bucket, and I will be making a lot of announcements up and down the country around maintenance. And one of the things that we found through the property inquiry was we have not been spending enough in maintaining the classrooms that we have to get the longest possible use out of them. And so at last year's budget, we put in $790 million into maintenance, which was almost double the previous 6 years combined, and another $100 million in this year. So we will now be able to start getting some of those redevelopment projects and upgrades happening all around the country. So there's some very good news coming for many schools up and down the country.
This is a bit of a separate issue, but we've been hearing concerns for quite a few years now from people who live in sort of the northern areas, Mangawhai, that sort of area, around high schools. Is the government planning on building any sort of schools around those areas, high schools?
Look, we're certainly looking across the country at where the demand is, and we do have that demand in North Auckland. We've got a demand out in Kumeu as well. We've got demands in the Tauranga area. We've got demands up at Mangawhai as well. So we are prioritising all of those, and I will have more to say in some of those areas in the coming months.
You sort of touched on it, but could you talk a little bit about the new school in Pōkeno?
Yes, so we know that there is a huge amount of growth happening in that southern corridor, and we've been looking for some time to purchase land for a school in Pokeno, and so we've managed to do that. I'm not able to announce the establishment of a new school just yet, but we've purchased the land. It is now on the cards, and now we will make a series of decisions about next steps in announcing the new school there. Great. Great.
This new entity, will sort of roughly 400 staff from the ministry get moved over to that entity, or are there anything jobs?
Look, the ministry are going through an operational decisions at the moment about what the new entity might look like and which staff may well move across to that new entity. That's entirely operational and something that the functional chief executive will be working through.
And do you have a view on the new entity's use of consultants?
Sorry?
On their use of consultants, because I think they were quite heavily used previously in the ministry. So do you have a view on the ministry's use of that?
Well, the ministry has dramatically reduced the amount of consultants that we use. I have got on the board, as I mentioned, under Murray McCulley's chairmanship, a huge amount of firepower of heavy lifters who are industry specialists who will be able to advise me and also advise the chief executive. So, look, it'll be up to them about the consultants that they use, but I don't expect they'll need to use many given the firepower that's on that transition board.
And will the new entity use, I guess, its collective buying power to get some savings? Have we got any idea how much that might save?
Look, one of the things that was outlined in the report, the school property report that Murray McCulley and Chris and Mark Binns chaired, was around the fact that there is a lot more savings to be had if we are able to be more flexible. So the ministry make a number of decisions, and they have a number of processes that are not optimal. And we still have those in place. So we know we can drive even better value for money. For example, grouping up schools, for example, who are struggling to maintain their own property and having that managed as a whole. Going to schools who are perfectly capable of managing their own building projects. We will have much better value for money if we say to schools, you've got the capability and capacity on your board, and you've got the track record to build your own classrooms. We already see that happening with board-owned property. They're building classrooms at half the price and half the time than we are. We need to take advantage of that. So there'll be a number of things out of that property report that the new entity will no doubt look to drive even better value for money.
And you're confident that it'll lead to an increase in transparency?
The whole key behind having this school property entity is to drive accountability and transparency, and it's one of the major things during the property report that schools said that it's very murky. We go into a system of design, but we don't know what's happening for the next stage or the next stage, and then it stops and then it starts again, and then it can take years, and then over that time everything doubles. What they want is clear, transparent process that they can rely on, that they know exactly what's going to happen. That's what we want to move to. Half of our problem is that we have we call it the hopper of projects that all go in. They sort of fly around for years. There's no consistency, there's no accountability, and there's no understanding of exactly when your project will happen, and then costs will blow out along the way. So we want to smooth that post-process through.
And just lastly, the ministry achieved sort of roughly 30% reduction in the cost of classrooms, and you had congratulated them on it, but clearly it didn't go far enough if there's a need for the entity announced today.
No, there's always more we can do. And look, the school property division are very aware of their limitations and the fact that there is more that they can do. And I think they're really excited about the work that's ahead and having more flexibility through a Crown agent. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.